Asterisk, that's it. Asterisk. The Empress whispered as she watched the humans enter her court, smiling, unarmed, their hands behind their backs in peace. Asterisk, 5 beings in gray suits. No weapons. No armor. No guards. Asterisk. The Empress laughed quietly to herself. Asterisk, this is all humanity has. Asterisk. She didn't know. She was watching an extinction-level threat walk politely across her floor. The imperial palace of Zaris Prime stood on polished obsidian, its ceilings glittering with holographic constellations. Dozens of alien species had bowed here, offered tribute, begged for peace or mercy. Today, another species arrived, humans. They walked without fear, without bodyguards, no weapons visible. A hush fell over the court as they entered. 5 of them. 4 men, 1 woman. No ranks on their uniforms. Just a simple silver emblem across the chest, an open eye. The Empress of the Galactic throne narrowed her gaze. Are they diplomats? She asked her military advisor. General Voth grunted. They claimed to be. Their ship had no weapons. No shielding either. Practically ancient tech, by our standards. The Empress leaned back on her throne. So harmless. General Voth smirked. Utterly. I've seen their databases. Primitive history. Wars among themselves. Took them centuries just to leave their own system. The humans stopped at the center of the court, standing still. The lead delegate, a man with streaks of gray at his temples, looked directly at the Empress. Calm. Measured. I am Daniel Ash, he said. We come in peace, Your Grace. We represent the United Systems of Earth. She smiled indulgently. Do you now? And what, precisely, do you want? Ash responded politely. Open diplomacy. Shared knowledge. And fair warning. That raised eyebrows. Fair warning? Before the Empress could reply, a noble in the stands, Lord Castron of the Zalzar, scoffed loudly. A warning? From you? He stood, snarling. Your kind has no military worth. You hide behind peace and pretend to be equals. Another noble joined in. I've seen your footage. You still use projectile weapons. Laughter rippled through the court. Some clutched their stomachs. General Voth didn't laugh, but he smiled. Daniel Ash didn't flinch. Instead, he turned slightly to glance at his companions. None reacted. No change in posture. No tensing. Just calm. Ash turned back to the Empress. We came because we knew how this would go. You would laugh. You would dismiss us. He took a step forward. And someone in this room, right now, will make a mistake. The Empress's smile faded. What mistake? She asked coldly. Ash met her eyes. Treating us like we're alone. 3 hours earlier, orbit above Zaris Prime. A stealth cruiser, matte black and silent, drifted above the dark side of the planet. No life signs. No lights. No communication. But inside, it buzzed with quiet motion. Human soldiers, real ones, checked weapons, reviewed infiltration maps, confirmed fallback coordinates. 100 operators, spread across orbit and planetary surface, ready for one signal. Just one. Present moment, throne hall. One of the Empress's guards moved. He was young, eager. Watching humans get mocked stirred something in him. He stepped forward and spat at the feet of one of the delegates, the woman. His spittle landed just short of her boot. Not so advanced now, are you? He sneered. She didn't even blink. Daniel Ash sighed softly and whispered into the mic at his collar, inaudible to alien ears. Operation Echo Fire. Green light. 10 seconds later, Imperial Security Network. Screens went dark. Surveillance feeds cut out. Planetary Defense Grid reported internal error. Targeting satellites spun out of alignment. Admiral Thren looked up from his command chair, confused. Did they just hack us? Before he could speak again, the orbital dock exploded ***. One of the Empire's dreadnoughts shattered into pieces. Seconds later, fire alarms blared in the palace's east wing. Back in the throne hall, the Empress shot to her feet. What is this? General Voth activated his neural link. What's happening? Give me status. But the link was dead. Daniel Ash looked around the hall slowly. Not smug. Not angry. Just disappointed. I warned you, he said. But you looked at our diplomats and thought that was all we are. Behind him, the woman stepped forward, removing a pin from her lapel. It shimmered, unfolded, became a sleek metal blade. The guard who spat? He went down before he could scream. Chaos exploded in the court. Guards scrambled. Nobles screamed. The humans moved in perfect sync. The third delegate opened his palm, projecting a holographic map of the entire palace. Targeted systems flashed red. It had already begun. Ash raised his voice. We came to talk. You chose to threaten. So we responded the way humans always do. He stared the Empress down as her own guard took a step backward, terrified. You've never fought a real war, Ash said. You've only crushed the weak. He looked around the room. We're not the weak. We're the storm you never saw coming. Recap of the last moment. The Empire thought humans were harmless diplomats. But when a guard disrespected one of them, everything changed. Systems shut down. Explosions rocked the docks. One whispered phrase activated hidden forces. Operation Echo Fire. Green light. Now, the true face of humanity is showing. The Empress stood frozen. Her throne felt suddenly too high, too fragile. The polished obsidian floor beneath her trembled, not with fear, but with carefully calculated consequences. One of her attendants rushed to her side. Your Grace, we've lost communications planet-wide. Military installations are going dark. More explosions echoed in the distance. Daniel Ash remained exactly where he was. Calm. Still. Watching. You made a mistake, he said again, voice steady. You thought we were here to negotiate from weakness. We were offering you a chance to avoid the worst. General Voth roared and reached for his sidearm. Before it cleared the holster, the human woman, Agent Mara, was already moving. Crack. A bone-shattering kick to the chest. Thud. General Voth hit the wall hard enough to dent the alloy plating. He didn't get up. The nobles scattered like insects. A few guards pulled weapons, but they were outmaneuvered before they could aim. Each of the humans had suddenly transformed, from diplomats to death incarnate. #### inside the palace walls, simultaneously. In the east wing, a hidden doorway slid open. Human operatives, clad in stealth armor, stepped into the royal data nexus. No alarms. They had shut the system down from orbit. Now they planted devices, viruses, data siphons, kill commands. They weren't stealing information. They were rewriting the Empire's future. #### orbital debris field. The remains of the Empire's dreadnoughts drifted in flaming chunks. Human ships, small, sleek, invisible to traditional scanners, moved effortlessly between the debris. Captain Nia Rowan of the UNS Wraith smirked as she watched through the hollow feed. They still think this is a military action, she said, sipping coffee. It's not. It's a demonstration. Her first officer nodded. Message received loud and clear, ma'am. #### in the throne room. Ash finally walked forward, slowly, deliberately. His footsteps echoed in the suddenly silent hall. You've studied our data. You think you understand us. Our wars. Our politics. Our weaknesses. The Empress's eyes darted around for help. None came. Ash reached the steps of her throne and stopped. We sent 5 people to talk. 5. While 100 more dismantled your world from within. And yet, you still haven't seen our soldiers. These. He gestured to Mara and the others. These are observers. The Empress's voice cracked for the first time in decades. What do you want? Ash met her eyes. We want you to understand that Earth doesn't bow. We want you to realize how close you were to peace, and how far you've just fallen from it. He turned to leave. I recommend evacuating your capital. #### 12 hours later, broadcast across the Empire. A shaky transmission aired across the Empire's public channels. It showed the Empress herself, bruised and shaken, standing before a camera. This is a message of caution. The human delegation has withdrawn. In their wake, our orbital fleet was destroyed, our palace infiltrated, and our networks compromised. She paused. They left, peacefully. But we have no illusions now. Their restraint was not weakness. It was choice. #### on board the UNS Wraith, in orbit. Mara leaned on the observation glass, staring down at the now-burning capital city. Think she got the message? She asked. Ash stood beside her. She will. They always do, eventually. He looked out over the stars. We were willing to be allies, he said softly. But they only learn when they bleed. Mara gave a grim nod. So what now? Ash cracked his neck. Now? Now we show the galaxy what happens when you mistake kindness for submission. Recap. The humans came with 5 delegates. No weapons. No threats. Just one polite warning. When the Galactic Empress laughed in their faces, Earth's answer wasn't war. It was precision humiliation. Now their palace burns, their orbit is in flames. But the rest of the Empire? They still don't understand what just happened. They're about to. #### Imperial Outpost. 3 days later. The Drelak installation sat nestled on the surface of Kovar 7, a fringe world hosting one of the Empire's largest military testing centers. Shielded, secret, self-sufficient. The perfect place to launch a counterstrike, or so they thought. Commander Trizek paced his war room, furious. You're telling me one human team dismantled our capital's entire security web, took out 3 dreadnoughts, humiliated the Empress. ***, and we couldn't track a single ship leaving orbit? ***. His aide swallowed. Sir, it's worse. Our satellites didn't even detect the explosions until they were over. Impossible. We checked the logs. There was nothing on radar. Just silence. Then fire. Another officer chimed in. And now we've lost contact with 8 listening posts along the verge. All silent. Trizek's claws curled into his desk. What are we dealing with? A voice from the doorway answered. Humans. The room fell silent as the figure stepped inside, dressed not in uniform, but civilian garb. Advisor Hesher, former ambassador to Earth. They offered peace, Hesher said, voice grim. And we mocked them. We studied their history and thought they were fractured, disorganized, emotional. What we failed to see is what happens when something truly unites them. Trizek snorted. You sound afraid. I am, Hesher whispered. ####. Meanwhile, edge of Kovar system. No ships on scanners. Not one. But planets were going dark. Sensor Officer Lyra of the Empire's 9th Patrol rubbed her eyes. Sir, we've just lost link to Observation Base K-11. Again, that's 4 in 2 hours. No distress signals. Just offline. Captain Relm blinked. There's nothing in that sector but mining rigs. Who'd even attack them? Lyra tapped a key. Her screen flickered. Sir, they went dark one by one, in perfect timing. 17 seconds apart. Precision strikes. Relm leaned forward slowly. You saying they're being hunted? Lyra turned pale. By something we can't see. We'd get some signal if it were pirates. We always do. Silence. Then, sir, new report from Listening Post Delta 4, ****. The screen blinked once, then showed static. ###UNS Oblivion, cloaked in Kovar orbit. The ship wasn't large, but it didn't need to be. Stealth fields, quantum nullwave drives, weapons designed to cripple, not destroy. This wasn't conquest. This was punishment. Commander Imani Ray stood on the command deck, her face expressionless as the last relay station on Kovar 7 went silent. Phase 2 complete, her AI announced. Imani gave a single nod. Begin psychological loop broadcast. #### Imperial broadcast hubs, all frequencies. Suddenly, every screen across Kovar lit up. Every comm station. Every personal device. Even old radio bands. The message was simple. A human voice. Calm. Gentle. Cold. You were warned. We came in peace. You spat on it. This is your second and final lesson. Then a short visual feed played. Footage of human ships tearing through stealth drills. Images of elite Empire troops falling unconscious, never dead, just removed. Then the voice again. We do not conquer. We correct. Consider yourselves corrected. #### Empire High Council, emergency meeting. Panic. Senators screamed over each other. Where are they attacking from? Why can't we see them? Why haven't they issued demands? And from the back of the room, someone said quietly, they don't need demands. They're not here to talk. Advisor Hesher rose. They warned us. We're not dealing with a species seeking power. We're dealing with a species enforcing respect. Counselor Dran bellowed. But there are only billions of them. We have quadrillions. Hesher turned. They don't need numbers. They only need you to see what one human can do. #### Ground level, Kovar Barracks. Private Lex stood guard at the south corridor. Suddenly, ****, the lights went out ****. Not flickered. Dead. His comms. Down. His weapon? Unresponsive. He turned in the pitch black, heart racing. Whispers filled the air. Then a whisper. Right beside him. You've been seen. A gloved hand reached out of the dark. And everything went black. UNS Oblivion. Final moments ***. Imani folded her arms as the last Kovar base reported a complete systems collapse. The Empire's entire outer defense perimeter, neutralized. Not killed. Not destroyed. Humiliated. Her second-in-command stared at the readout. All this and not a single shot fired on the capital. Imani smiled. We're not here for body counts. We're here to show the galaxy what happens when you treat Earth like a backwater. She tapped the command key. Message delivered. Meanwhile, in the core worlds, the Empress's advisors surrounded her with frantic updates. There's no invasion force. No ships in orbit. No public demands. But the sectors are surrendering. Officers are deserting. People are resigning just from fear. The Empress stared ahead. For the first time in her reign, she had nothing to say. Because she finally understood. Opening quote from a surrendered admiral's journal. We kept asking, where are the fleets? Where are the invasions? Where are the demands? And only later did we realize the truth. The humans weren't fighting us. They were breaking us. Imperial Fortress World, Kothon Prime. The most heavily fortified bastion of the Inner Empire. Shields layered across the atmosphere. Armies drilled daily. Dozens of dreadnoughts in orbit. It had never known defeat. Never even seen a true enemy at its gates. Until today. No sirens. No fleet on scanners. But suddenly, doors jammed. Energy cores misfired. Communications twisted into garbled chaos. Supply chains severed. General Orcs stormed his command bridge. Who breached our systems? Was it a virus? A mole? One officer, pale and shaking, turned to him. Sir, it's the same pattern as Kovar 7. They're here. Orcs frowned. Where? There's nothing in orbit. The lights dimmed. A message played. Again. We are not at war. You're just losing. Human Council War Room. Earth. On Earth, the Unified Human Defense Council met underground, buried beneath miles of reinforced steel and quantum shielding. Around the circular table, admirals and strategists monitored the live intel feeds. One advisor looked confused. We've collapsed 5 outer sectors, demoralized 2 inner colonies. But we've occupied none. Counselor Vane leaned forward. That's the point. General Marks nodded. We're not here to control them. We're here to remind them. Remind them of what? Asked the younger officer. Marks's voice was flat. That we're the species that crawled out of fire, turned death into medicine, and fear into weapons. We're not galactic children. We're the nightmare that waits until you stop laughing. Broadcast across the Empire. Again. Same voice. Same tone. No emotion. You called us weak. You mocked our peace. You tortured our envoys and broke faith with our hand. And now, without a shot, we've taken your weapons, your will, and your pride. This is not war. This is the price of arrogance. Then, silence. Empress's private quarters. She sat alone, robes wrinkled, crown forgotten on a nearby table. One screen showed the faces of surrendered generals. Another flickered with lists of resignations. Entire sectors dropping allegiance to the throne. Not by force, but by fear. Why don't they strike? She whispered to herself. If they could destroy us, why don't they? Advisor Hesher's voice came from the shadows. Because they don't need to. You already destroyed yourself. UNS Oblivion. Final broadcast ***. Commander Imani Ray, now orbiting the capital system under full cloak, prepared the final stage. Her crew watched silently as a massive sphere deployed. Not a bomb. Not a weapon. A projector. One that cast an enormous hologram over the capital, visible from the ground, the air, and orbit. It was an image of Earth. Blue. Proud. Beautiful. The words beneath it. We gave you a chance. Remember it the next time someone comes to you in peace. The aftermath. 2 weeks later. Across the Empire. Military funding plummeted. Citizens protested leadership. Border colonies sought diplomatic ties with Earth. Fear outweighed pride. And Earth? It never issued a single territorial claim. Never demanded reparations. Never stationed a ship. They simply stopped. But the damage remained. Because now everyone knew. Humanity didn't need to conquer the galaxy. The galaxy would conquer itself trying to understand how it lost so badly without a war. Final line from a broadcasted human statement. We are not at war. We just stopped pretending we weren't better at it. The Empress stood alone in the ruins of her grand palace. The once proud banners of the Empire lay torn across the floor, trampled by panicked boots. Her guard had fled. Her court dissolved. She turned to the only advisor who hadn't left her side, Hesher. They didn't take anything, she said quietly. No planets. No resources. Not even prisoners. Why does it feel like we've already lost everything? Hesher bowed his head. Because we challenged a storm and thought we'd walk away dry. For the first time in a century, the leaders of Earth's major powers stood as one. No division. No debate. Just silence and one single, global decision. We don't seek control. We seek balance. The galaxy knows our name now, not as conquerors, but as a warning. A small woman approached the podium. She was not a general, not a politician, just a survivor from the envoy team the Empire had tortured and ridiculed. She held up a simple hollow image. It showed her and her alien torturer. I forgive him, she said. But the galaxy should remember, peace is not weakness. And when you break it, we build the cost into your bones. A new class was introduced in every academy across the former empire. Human history, first contact, and the lessons of pride. Students studied Earth's timeline, but not just its wars. Its revolutions. Its acts of defiance. Its innovation. Its stubborn refusal to die when everyone expected surrender. A professor explained it best. Other species evolve because of fear. Humans evolved through it. They made fear a tool. And now, they've given the galaxy a choice. Respect peace, or remember what happens when you mock it. A child stood on the edge of a public plaza, staring up at a towering monument. It was a massive sculpture of a human hand reaching downward, extended in peace. Her father stood beside her, silent for a moment. Who are they, she asked. He looked up at the monument, then down at his daughter. They're the ones who smiled when we insulted them, warned us when we struck them, and walked away after showing us what monsters they could have been. She frowned. Are they monsters? No, he said. They're humans. The Galactic news feeds told the rest of the story. Headline: Trade Treaty with Earth signed by 17 former Imperial sectors. Subheadline: Diplomats note surge in volunteer peacekeeper programs inspired by human behavior. The galaxy had changed, not because of occupation, but because no one wanted to know what came after the next warning. On the UNS Oblivion, Commander Imani Ray stood at the forward viewing panel, watching an alien sunrise bathe a once hostile world in color. Commander, her AI said, Galactic broadcast reports widespread celebrations. The Empire has officially removed all Earth hostility directives. She smiled. Good. Would you like to disarm mission systems? She looked around. The ship was still fully operational. Every weapon in prime condition. Cloaking flawless. She tapped the console once. Leave them hot, but leave us silent. Understood. And across the stars, a final message broadcasted, clean, strong, emotionless. This is our final message to all who watch. We will not invade. We will not conquer. But if you mock peace again, if you raise a hand against the weak, then you will see the other side of us. Not to take your worlds, but to remind you who we are. A long pause. We are not your enemy. We are the storm you thought wouldn't come. The Empire asked, that's all humans? Now they pray that's all.